And now I'm going to start. Okay, so we are this week we're doing Lamed Aleph or 31. Interesting capital of Tehilim. It's a Thanksgiving. David HaMelech is thanking Hashem for saving him, calling on him for when he needs to be saved. It's not the only, that there's many of them. But in this chapter of Tehillim, if we would want to do it as a history lesson instead of as a learning Tehillim, this would be a really good one to use that to use that for, because because David um, because David alludes to every single time that he needed Hashem's help in this chapter of Tehillim, but we aren't going to spend all that time, doing that. So we're going to look at more of how this really applies, well, both to David and to us. This capital of Tehillim was written the first time after the story of the Selah HaMachlokes. Okay, so the Selah HaMachlokes, which we translate as the stone of contention, and it's one of the very famous stories with David. And he was running away from Shaul with his 600 men. They were on a mountain, and the mountain was surrounded by Shaul and his men, and they were trapped. And it looked like they were really going to be caught. And eventually they called out to Hashem, and Hashem made a big miracle that the mountain split. And this was why it got called, one of the reasons that the story is referred to as the Selah HaMachloket, or the stone that split. And David's men were hidden behind a big rock. Shaul's men couldn't see them anymore. They tried going around to look for them, couldn't find them, eventually left, and David and his men managed to escape. And there are many chapters of Tehillim. We have done one before, which refer to this story, because this is one of the sources that we have, that whenever you come to a place where you're saved, a miracle happened to you, you have to do a thanksgiving. And so every time David and his men would pass this rock, they would do a thanksgiving to Hashem. But the very first time David wrote this chapter of Tehillim, and he said, this is a chapter of Tehillim that will be used over and over and over again anytime that he wants to thank Hashem for anything. So let's see what he says in it. So it begins, Lamnatzech Mizmor David. This is a chapter of Tehillim which would be said in the Beis Hamikdash by the Levim. And he begins with the famous words. He says, B'cha Hashem chatzisi, Hashem, I take refuge in you. Al Eivesha La'elam, don't ever let me be embarrassed, but Sidkascha Palteni, and in your righteousness deliver me. So a lot of different ideas here. So the first one is the first phrase, B'cha Hashem chatzisi. In you, Hashem, I trust. I rely. I take refuge, whichever translation you want to put it. And basically, David HaMelech is saying that many times when things seemed so bad and it didn't seem that he was going to be saved. So this was whenever he needed to run, whether it was from Shaul, whether it was in the palace, whether it was in the desert, wherever he was running from, the one thing that kept him was B'cha Hashem chatzisi. In you, Hashem, I trust. I believe. And he explains, and commentary is explaining to us, that David was telling us that when you trust in Hashem, then things will turn out properly. That it's actually the trust in Hashem that gives us the ability to get through certain things. This really shouts out to me. My father, he had unfortunately many run-ins with criminals. So the very first time he was in his office, and there was an armed robbery, and they were all tied up, and guns, and the whole thing. And I spoke to him a few minutes later, as soon as they were freed, and my brother told me what had happened. We were living in Cape Town then, and I called my father and I said, what happened? Are you okay? And he says, I'm fine, Ralph, absolutely fine. I said, how could you be fine? Like what? Like how can you sound so fine? I'm in a huge panic and I'm far away, and there you are and telling me you're fine. And he really sounded fine. And he said to me, the whole time that I was being threatened, I was okay because I believed, absolutely believed that I would be okay. The rebel once told my father, "Mazal nit don't be scared." And he says, so I just kept on going over this in my head, and I was fine. And I was quite amazed by that. And unfortunately, had a few other incidences, and one just 2 years before, like 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more, about 4 years ago. And the same thing, he said to me, I wasn't scared because the whole time I heard this voice in my head telling me, got to trust in Hashem. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. And so I wasn't. And that's it. I wasn't scared. And so this is what David HaMelech, this is the lesson that David HaMelech is saying to all of us. B'cha Hashem chasisi. In you, Hashem, we have to trust. And that trust of Hashem is what's going to keep us. It's what is going to help us get through the whatever difficult, whatever it is that we are going through, and it actually gives koyach, it gives strength, an ability for us to get through these like any kind of challenges that we are facing. And he says, Al Eilam, don't let me ever be embarrassed. Like as a result of my faith, I will never be embarrassed. And we'll see him repeat this concept in the next few psukim. And he says, "B'tzidkascha palteni, in your righteousness, Hashem, in your righteousness, save me." And this is a way we often use to daven to Hashem, where instead of asking Hashem, save me because I need to be saved, we twist it, whatever, we turn the tables on Hashem and say, save us because you, Hashem, are great enough to save us. And we use this very often in our davening. Do this for you, Hashem, not necessarily only for me. Because often, and again, we'll see that same theme repeated here in this parak, often we want something from Hashem that we don't necessarily deserve. And so what we're asking Hashem, do it for me even if I don't deserve it. Do it because you're great and you can do it. And so he continues and he says, Hate Elai Aznecha, turn your ear to me, Mahera Hatzileni, and quickly save me. Heyeli Letzur Ma'ais, be a rock of strength for me, Leveis Metzuras Laheshieni, and a fortress to save me. So the first interesting point that the commentaries say over here, Hate Elai, turn your ear to me. You know, many times we know what we want and we turn to Hashem or we ask Him. We ask Hashem, we daven, we call on Him, we're very explicit in what it is that we want from Him. But sometimes we haven't even yet thought about how to daven. Sometimes we haven't even realized that we need to daven, that we need to turn to Hashem. And this is what David is saying over here. Hate Elai Aznacha. Hashem, you first turn your ear to me. In other words, Hashem, you know what I need to daven for. You know what I'm feeling. You know that I am soon going to call on you, hopefully. But in the meantime, I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't been able to express myself yet. I haven't realized that I need to express myself yet. So you, Hashem, Hate Elai Aznacha. You, Hashem, turn your ear to me. You come first. Then, at a more simple understanding of this, David is asking Hashem to listen to his prayers, and he's asking for more than just listening, but he's saying, "Meheira hatzileni," and rescue me very soon. So most of us, the trouble that we have when we daven is that we don't see immediate results. If we were able to daven and immediately see Hashem help us, it would be so easy to daven. Our trouble is the time between when we daven and when we see results of our davening. And look, even David HaMelech had that trouble. He says, "Meheira hatzileni," quickly help me bring answer my prayers. I remember discussing once with my cousin that if we knew a time frame for when our prayers would be answered, it would be so much easier. If someone said to you, "Look, You're not going to have parnasa for another year. You're not going to have a child for another year, or whatever it is, or a shidduch, or whatever it is that you're asking for. If you knew the time frame, you could get on with your life nicely, and not worry about it, because you know that in this particular time everything is going to be fine. Our trouble with prayer, if that's the right word, is that we don't know what the waiting time is. And David HaMelech allows us to say to Hashem, we're struggling with that. Hate elai aznacha, mehera hatzileni, and answer us quickly. Don't keep us waiting for an answer. David HaMelech here is asking Hashem for three different things. He's asking Hashem, first of all, to help him answer his prayer. Second of all, he's asking Hashem to help him sustain his faith, because if we daven and we don't see answers, then our faith gets a bashing. And interestingly, the Chazal tell us that he's also asking over here that he should never land up killing Shaul. Okay, so one of the greatnesses that we see of David HaMelech right through Tehilim is that he didn't want to succeed by killing Shaul or harming Shaul. And it seems that he's talking about one incident, but as I said to you right at the beginning, he's speaking about lots of different incidences, and most of them are being alluded to in this pasuk and the next one, and the next one. The use of the words the tsur ma'oz, leveis mitzudos, lahoshieni, these are all hinting at different episodes in his life where he needed Hashem's help and he called on Hashem. The Rebbe tells us that after the Churban and the Galus, we cried out to Hashem and we said, how are we going to survive? How are we going to manage this long exile? We have no fortresses, we have no Beis HaMikdash, we have no Yerushalayim. What is going to give us the strength to survive Galus? And Hashem responded, he said, your fortresses will be the schools and the Batei Midrashim. In other words, the places where Torah is studied. All those places are going to be what keeps you strong and helps you to survive right through the Galus. The Rebbe expands on this and he says, all of those places, when Mashiach comes, will be absorbed as part of Eretz Yisrael. And so now when you walk into a place of Torah learning, you walk into a school, you walk into a yeshiva, you walk into a Beis Medrash, it's as though you're walking into a mini Eretz Yisrael, or the pre-plans of Eretz Yisrael, and that should give a person strength for the future, in strength, faith, and knowing that we do have something that can hold us while we're in Galus. So he explains all the different things. He says, Kisali Mutsudasi, you're my support and my protection, Ulaman Shimcha, for the sake of your name, Tanchenius Nahaleni, guide me and lead me. Tetzieni Mireshes Zu, rescue me from this net. Tomnuli, the one that they've hidden for me. Ki Ato Ma'uzi, because you, Hashem, are my protection. And then pasuk Vav, a very famous pasuk. It is Beyadcha Afkid Ruchi. In your hands I trust my spirit. Padisa Aisi Hashem Kel Emes. And Hashem, the God of truth, please save me. So many people have this as the last part of Shema, which we say at night before we go to sleep. And many of you may have recognized this as very similar to the words in Adon Olam. In your hands I trust my spirit when I go to sleep and when I wake up in the morning. So the Gemara talks about this pasuk, and the Gemara speaks about this idea of entrusting our neshama to Hashem. So normally when we go to sleep, we're tired, whatever it is, we give our neshama to Hashem, we say good night, and we go to sleep. And then in the morning, we get our neshama back. Think about it. It's absolutely miraculous, and we take it just for granted. And our neshama comes back, And we say Maida Ani, we say thank you, Hashem. And the Gemara says it's fascinating how organized, because how what Hashem does. Normally, when you give somebody something to look after for you, they look after it however they look after it, and they return it to you, hopefully in as good condition as when you gave it to them to look after. We give our soul to Hashem to look after, and He gives it back to us better than when we gave it to Him. Not only that, He gives it back the right one. Like, I'm sure you've all had such a situation where you've lent someone something, and they give you back the wrong thing. Is it like it's they didn't do it on purpose. They borrowed 3 vases, and when they returned, they gave your friend yours and you the other person's vase, and now you've got the trouble of going to get the right vase. Like, imagine in the morning there would be a mix-up of souls, and Hashem got thousands of souls in the night, and in the morning we wake up with somebody else's neshama. Like, imagine such a concept. And the miracle, says the Gemara, is that we wake up with our souls not only in as good condition, but in generally in better condition in the morning than when we went to sleep at night. And it's our soul. And we just take that for granted. We just get up and go. And therefore, says the Gemara, one of the biggest signs of faith is actually saying these words, Biyadcha afkid ruchi, this pasuk, that I giving my soul to you, Padisa Osi Hashem kel emes, and God of truth, please save me. It's one of the biggest signs of faith, acknowledging something that we could just take for granted and realizing that we really need to acknowledge it. The Gemara also says that even if a person didn't say Shema, they should say this pasuk. They should say Biyadcha Kidruchi. So we actually have this custom that from when our children are very small, babies, and we say Shema with them long before they can talk, and we say Shema before they go to sleep. We say Shema and we finish off with these words, Biyadcha Kidruchi. Even on a night where you don't need to say Shema for whatever reason, like for example Pesach night, we still say this pasuk Biyadcha Kidruchi. Yeah.
Sorry, can I ask a question, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Like that line, I noticed is for the Shema for bedtime. I see that under the children's section of the Siddur. I don't see it anywhere else. Is there a reason for that?
I'm going to look. I think it's also in the adults Shema. I'm going to check it. It and see. I'll get back to you. But definitely children should be saying it. Like, this is the custom that we say with our children. Okay. The Medrash tells a very strange explanation on these words. The Medrash says that every night, when a person is going to sleep, as they say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, when they say those last 2 words, Hashem Echad, the demons of the day respond by saying Baruch Hashem Kavod, which is the next line, and then they go away. They disappear. It's very interesting and powerful medrash, and it says the medrash continues and it explains that all of us have guardian angels who are with us in the day and different ones who are with us in the night. And when we say Biyadcha Afkid Ruchi, Hashem, I'm giving you my soul, we are switching the daytime for the nighttime. And when we say Meida Ani in the morning, we are switching back. The nighttime angels are leaving, and the morning, the daytime angels are coming. We often think of these stories as like little children's stories, but we actually have to know that these are real stories. They are. These are medrashim meant to give us faith, meant to give us emunah, and meant to make us understand the greatness of Hashem's world and the way the whole system works. Another level of understanding Biyadcha Afkid Ruchi, I'm entrusting my soul to back to you. is instead of what we've been concentrating on the whole time, like, wow, Hashem is going to give us our soul back better, we have actually been entrusted with our soul from Hashem. In other words, we are all a little bit of Hashem. And so every day when we go to sleep, we're giving Hashem back part of Him, right? We're giving Him that which He lent to us for the day, the soul. And when we saying this, Biyadcha Afkeduchi, Hashem, I'm giving you back my soul for the night, that part of my soul for the night. We are saying to Hashem, I've tried. I tried today to be able to return my soul in a way that I didn't misuse it. There's nothing. I didn't do anything that I shouldn't have done today with my soul. I feel confident to give you back my soul right now, and I know you're going to be happy with me. I know that you're going to, and that's something we need to think about because it definitely changes the way we behave in the day. The last word that we say, as you said in this pasuk, is the word emes. Okay, right? Padisa, see, Hashem kel emes, Hashem, you are a God of truth. So the last word we say before we go to sleep, or unless you're still going to say hamapil or whatever, we're saying the word emes, truth. So just notice the word emes, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but the Zohar tells us that the word emes, truth, is Hashem's signature. And why is it Hashem's signature? Because emes, if you look at it, Aleph is the very first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Taf is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and Mem is the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which means Hashem, emes, is found in all parts of the alphabet, so to speak. The alphabet represents the world, which was created with words. And so the word emes represents for us that the truth of Hashem, godliness, is to be found everywhere, in all corners, in all places, beginning, middle, and end. And when we are involved in emes, when we are involved in truth, then we know we can stand firm. Hinted at, and it's a cute explanation, that the word emes, each letter has got 2 feet or a stand. So the Aleph has got 2 feet, and the Mem has got a nice base, and the Taf has got 2 feet. Emes is secure. Sheker, on the other hand, lies with deceit. Each letter stands on 1 foot, right? The Shin has a pointy bottom. The Kuf has 1 foot, 1 foot, and the Reish has 1 foot. It's wobbly, doesn't stand as securely as emes. It continues and he says, I hate those who trust in emptiness. Vani el Hashem batachti. But for me, I trust in Hashem. So what does he mean by people who trust in empty nothingness or empty nonsense? David HaMelech is telling us that throughout his life, although he many times was uncertain, insecure, vulnerable, he never ever went to astrologers or fortune tellers or witch doctors to give him advice or tell him what's going to happen. I trusted Hashem absolutely and completely. Not the same with Shaul, who went to a witch to try and communicate with Shmuel when he was scared. And so, just to very briefly explain, there is truth in astrologers, fortune tellers. They can be, if they are real, they can be telling you the truth. And yet we see ourselves as higher than that, again, as he will hint to soon in this capital. And we do not ask Hashem for signs, even though we are often very tempted to ask Hashem for signs. The only time we are permitted to ask for a sign, if it's something that has very specifically to do with what we need. So the most famous one, I think, in the Torah is when Eliezer is looking for a wife for Yitzchak, and he says to Hashem, give me a sign. And he doesn't choose a random sign. You know, the girl who comes out is very pretty and is wearing her hair in 2 ponies. He doesn't that's not what he gives as a sign, but he chooses a sign, something that's very relevant to what he's looking for. I need to find Yitzchak a kind wife, and therefore the sign that I want is one of a very kind person, someone who's more kind than usual. And so that's why he chooses the sign that she'll give him to drink and the camels, right? She's super kind. So that is a time where we are permitted to use signs when it's relevant to what we are looking for. Pasuk Ches, Agila ve'esmecha b'chazdecha. I'm happy and I rejoice in your kindness. Asher ra'isa esoni, that you saw my distress, yadaita b'tzaras nafshi, and you understood the turmoil of my soul. Agila and esmecha, two different words of saying happy. Commentaries explain to us that gil, that kind of happiness, is that moment of extreme joy. You just found out that something that you were struggling with worked or is good, that you've overcome the challenge. That moment where you are excited, you're happy, is called gila. It's called I'm happy. That wow moment. And esmecha, the word simcha, actually means continued happiness, the glow that comes after that happiness. It's the surety that it's not just a one-off thing, but it's an always happiness. And David says, "Agila ve'esmacha." I was happy when you helped me, but ve'esmacha, I'm contentedly happy that I know, I am sure that you are going to carry on doing nice things. And why am I so sure of that? He uses the words b'chasdecha. It's because of your kindness. And that's what he was saying before, and he's repeating it again. When Hashem does things for us, sometimes it's because we deserve it, and sometimes it's just plain chesed. Hashem decided to be nice to us today. And David HaMelech asks this of Hashem, be nice to me, not necessarily because I deserve it, but just because you, Hashem, are nice. Be nice and kind just because of that. And this is actually a request we make often of Hashem, where we say to Hashem, like, I don't know if I really deserve this that I'm asking you for, but I'm still asking you for it because I know, Hashem, that you are kind. Do it just out of kindness. And David HaMelech says when he has that feeling that Hashem is being nice to him just out of kindness, Agila ve'esmacha, I'm happy and I'm contentedly happy. And he explains in the next couple of psukim how happy he is and what he's happy from. And so I'm going to just go very quickly through it. He says that you didn't give me to my enemies, you set me down. Chaneni Hashem, be gracious to me, kitzarli, because I'm troubled. He then speaks about some of his troubles. He says, Kichalu b'yagon chayai, my life has been, it's gone in real anguish. Ushnasai ba'anocha, and my years, I've been sighing, right? And the commentaries explain, like, what does he mean by this? That my years have gone in sighing, and I've had all these troubles. He says because from the time that I killed Goliath, and I came back, and the women were singing, Shaul has killed thousands, and David HaMelech has killed 10,000. My life became a misery. The Shaul wanted to kill me. His jealousy was aroused, and I was in big troubles. He explains, he says, Mikol Sairi, this is Pasuk Yud Beis, Hayiti Chepa, I became an object of scorn. People started laughing at me. Not only that, but the commentaries say Chepa, disdain. When people wanted to insult their friend, they would say, "Oh, you're just like David," or it became like really, really bad. He says, "Pachad lemyudai." My friends were scared to be my friends because they saw what happened in Noiv, and they were worried they would also be wiped out. And he says, "Rei b'chutz naladu mimenu." Even those who saw me in the street ran away from me. He explains in Pasuk Yud Gimel Nishkachti kamas mileva. I was forgotten from people's hearts. Hayisi kichli aved, and I became like an abandoned and lost person. Over here, he doesn't um, mean just himself that he became abandoned and lost. But if you think about David, the people knew how great David was. They saw the miracle of him killing Goliath. They saw how he was saved over and over and over again, and yet they didn't like him. They just dumped him. And the Mephoshim asked why. And they explain it's because it was going on for too long. It was carrying on and on and on. And the Mephoshim say from this pasuk we learn that the fact that many Yidden have abandoned Yiddishkeit, the fact that people wonder, is there such a thing as Mashiach? Is it going to happen? Is it a fantasy? Chas v'shalom, you know why that is? Because it's gone for too long. The Mephoshim say it's time for us to tell Hashem that it's too long. We can't wait anymore. Because while we're waiting, it's so difficult for us to keep on believing over. And he explains, he says, I heard people, this is Pasuk Yudalad, I heard the people around me planning and plotting to kill me. But what? He returns to that original thought, Va'ani alecha batachti Hashem. But Hashem, I trust in you. Amarti elekai ata, and I said, "You are my God," because I believe that you are my God. Beyadcha itesai. What happens to me is in your hands. Hatzileni miyad oivai umerodfai. I want you to save me from my enemies and from those who are chasing me. And these words, "biyadcha itesai," in your hands, is my time, which I translated for you as "what happens is in your hands," but the literal translation, "biyadcha," in your hands, itesai, are my times. So there are lots of different mephoshim, and I want to share three of them with you. I know time is run out, but I'm going to carry on. If you need to leave, then do. David HaMelech is telling us, firstly, at a very simple level, it's written, and this is not something I really understand, but I'm repeating it to you anyway, that different tefillahs that we make, different prayers that we have different time zones. In the words of the Medrash, some tefillahs are answered in 40 days, some in 20 days, some in 3 days, some in 1 day, some in half a day, and some even before the person asks for them. And David HaMelech says, okay, I'm going to make all different kinds of tefillahs. I don't know which one it is, what kind of time zone it's going to have. Beyadcha, it's in your hand, itesai, my times, my davening times. So that's the simplest, if we can call it simple, level. Slightly deeper than that, Doeg and Achitophel, David's two bad chasers, they went to look in the stars to see when David, when was a good time to catch him, kill him, whatever they wanted to do. And David says, I know that they've gone and they found times that are written in the stars that it's good for me to be destroyed. But I know the Yadcha Itosai. My times are in your hands, Hashem. We are above that. It's true that maybe that was a good day to kill David, but it only happens if Hashem wants to kill David. We are above muzzle and astrology and everything. And so that's what he means, second opinion, B'yadcha itosai, in your hands are my times. And the third explanation that I'm going to share, this is life. In life, we have many times. We have good times, we have hard times, we have happy times, we have medium times, we have sad times. We have all different things happening. And one of the things that David is expressing over here, B'yadcha itosai, it's my times are in your hands. In other words, my life goes according to how you wanted, Hashem. And you obviously mean that I should be doing something in that time that you want me to be doing it. And if in each time that we go through, if we worked on ourselves to say, what does Hashem want from me now in this particular time? And that was a David HaMelech who was able to say, B'yadcha itosai, in your hands, Hashem, are all my times. You know what I'm supposed to be doing in all of my times. I'm going to just rush to the Pasuk Chaf, where David HaMelech says, Marav Tuvcha, how great is your good, Asher Tzafanta Lerecha, that you keep for those who fear you, Pa'alta L'chaisim Bach, and you've done things for those who rely on you, Neged B'nai Adam, it's clear for all people to see. And what Marav Tuvcha, how much is your goodness, the Mefarshim immediately tell us that we will never be able to understand the greatness of the reward that Hashem is preparing for us. While we're living in this physical world, we can't conceptualize the idea of spiritual greatness and pleasure and all of that. In fact, the Medrash goes, just as a person who is blind can't even conceive of what a color is, and a person who's deaf can't even conceive of what a sound is, so us living in this world cannot conceive of what spiritual pleasure really is. And David HaMelech says, Asher Tzafanta, you've hidden it, and for those people, it's a real treasure that you've hidden, you've put away for us to enjoy. But then he asks in the next pasuk that even though what we really want is spiritual pleasure, we still want lots of physical pleasure in this world as well. Hide them in the safety of your presence. Ish, from bands of wicked men. Titzbenem b'sukkah, conceal them and look after them. Meriv l'shonos, from cutting tongues. In other words, Hashem, give us good stuff in this world also, as well. The Tesis Yontef says that in this world we get rewarded for all the mitzvahs that we do, bein Adam l'chavere, between man and his fellow man, and in the world to come we will be rewarded for all the mitzvahs that we do, bein Adam l'makom, the things that are between man and God. Puts a lot of pressure on us to be nice to people around us. He finishing off by saying in Pasuk Chaf Gimel, Vani amarti b'chavzi, in panic I said, Negrasti mineged einecha, I have been cut off from your eyes. Achein shamata kol tachnunai b'shavi elecha, but you heard the sound of my plea when I called out to you. And the commentaries point out on the words, Vani amarti b'chavzi, I said in panic. When do we struggle to believe in Hashem? When we panicked. When we calm, it's much easier to trust and believe in Hashem. When we panic, that's when we have trouble. And then he finishes by saying, Evu es Hashem kol chasidav, love Hashem, all of you who are devoted to him, emunim noitzer Hashem, those who are faithful Hashem gods, u'mashalem al yeser eisei garva, and he repays, punishes those who are full of arrogance. Emunim, in other words, people who believe in him. A deeper explanation for emunim that I heard and love, those who say Amen. Person who responds Amen to a bracha, such a person Hashem shields, Hashem looks after. And the last pasuk, David is telling us, Chizku v'yametz levavchem, be strong and strengthen your hearts, kol hamiyachelim laHashem, all who put hope in Hashem. So David is saying to us that no matter what time we're going through, no matter what the issue is that we're going through, we need to trust. We need to strengthen ourselves and trust in Hashem. And that was an abbreviated end version of this parak. So.
That was beautiful. Thanks, Emma.
Thank
you, Rifki.
Thank
Shabbos,
you,
everybody.
Rifki. Have a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
And take care.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.
Bye.